Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thanks for joining me again this week. I hope everyone had a good Mother's Day, and thanks to all the moms out there for making such a difference in all of our lives. This is the 61st installment of my weekly virtual office hour address. A year ago, I converted my weekly coffee shop office hours on Friday mornings into a live stream address, and I haven't missed a week since. People continue to say they really appreciate these weekly updates, hearing from their mayors, and I'll continue them through the end of shelter in place. We've now reached 424 days since the March 16th, 2020 county health order started all this. Started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of the virus. A lot has happened over the last year, and something newsworthy seems to happen almost every day. But these virtual hours have been really great because they allow me to give you some updates, answer some of your questions, and provide words of encouragement to probably a lot larger crowd than who had just shown up at a coffee shop. And it allows people to go back and see what the mayor's saying, later in the week if they just can't meet with me at a given period of time. So thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale during these ever-changing times. I hope everyone's staying healthy and being safe, and of course getting your vaccination. It's been difficult for many of us, and I think the concept and things are opening up. And we'll talk about what the CDC's orders were, earlier this week, and conceivably things are slowly going back to some new normal, whatever that might be. As I mentioned last month, I will be cycling out my background art every week with art provided by Sunnyvale artists. This week, it's a piece of art by Sania Sayad. Sania Sayad. So it's a lake. It's a sun rising, setting, probably sunrise over a lake with lily pads. So thank you, Sania, for giving me art and changing in my background every week. And so if you want to purchase that art, please reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with the artist. But thank you again. And of course, as far as your day-to-day life, please keep following the county health orders. Do your part to stop the spread of the virus by, washing your hands, not touching your face, reducing the number of people you come in contact with, wear your mask when it's required, and of course, get your vaccination. That's the best thing you can do to get us back to some sort of normal. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about what's been happening at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. So a week ago Sunday, the Heritage Park Museum opened up for the first time in a year, and it's been open. It's now open like it was pre-pandemic. Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from noon to 4 p.m. And I've heard from several people who really enjoyed their visits so far. So it's good. It's having some sort of normalcy in our community again. And if you don't know much about Sunnyvale history, it's a great place to get exposed to Sunnyvale history as well as some general history of the valley. So yeah, it's I used to be president of the executive board, and it's a really great organization. If you get a chance, go by. It's right next to the community center. And then last Tuesday, the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors met, and Supervisor Lee and Semidian brought forth proposals to have the county evaluate establishing temporary and permanent supportive housing solutions here in Sunnyvale. And that report will come back to the board on August 31st, so we'll see what staff comes up with. But it's really the main thing is to find housing, provide housing for the Fair Oaks Park unhoused that the city's currently housing in one of our local hotels. And then, Supervisor Semidian basically made it clear that keeping the Sunnyvale Hamlin shelter operating, and it's one of the great things that we have. It's a transitionary shelter here in Sunnyvale, right near 237 in Matilda, and it's all, it's all by referral. So it's all the whoever's there, whether or not it's single people, couples, and there's even families there with kids. We had about up to 18 children during the pandemic living there, and I think we've at least one family has been housed. So it's transitionary that as the county looks for permanent housing for these unhoused residents, uh, that's that shelter is available for food, for social services, all of that. Definitely, it's been a little bit difficult during COVID. The 125 beds that expanded about a year and a half, just over a year ago, to 175 beds has been reduced down to 80 because of COVID and social distancing. So hopefully, as people get vaccinated and things open up, the shelters will be able to house more people. And Sunnyvale does a lot of funding on its own for housing projects with the housing mitigation fees. Whether or not that's through the affordable housing nonprofits, or even building housing on city property. So like the 90 units that are going up at Iowa and Matilda. And then last Tuesday, Sunnyvale Council had a very busy meeting. It started with two study session items, on one on the cultural inclusion study, and that's one of the things that we're trying to look at, how to improve our equity and accessibility from a city standpoint. And our deputy city manager has been kind of leading that effort, but it's talking about other things that we could do as far as funding. And it's a difficult year from a budget standpoint, and we'll talk about the budget a little bit later. But there's conceivably different levels of even creating kind of a new department with multiple people, but of course that has long-term costs from an organizational standpoint. So we'll see where that goes. The other update was the economic development strategy, and we're working on, it was kind of an update on some outreach that had been done over the last year, and then trying to figure out how we're looking at recovering from COVID-19. And definitely the residents, want more retail. 65% of the residents want more retail, that of those that responded. And we're looking at, trying to maintain our retail health along El Camino Real. But the other thing is, of course, making the city open for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, not just our high-tech companies, to do good business here. And we did what we could from a council standpoint over the last year to help on that recovery and kind of help businesses get through the pandemic. We did a Silicon Sunnyvale Cares program that gave over $1.3 million in $5,000 to $15,000 grants to our small businesses. Our businesses had over 1,700 PPP loans, less than $150,000 from the federal government, and almost 400 loans over $150,000 from the government. So all that is positive. We think our staff thinks we preserved more than 16,000 jobs in Sunnyvale. So all that's really good. And over 500 new businesses opened in the last year. And so that's, from small tech companies, home-based businesses, to, Dunkin' Donuts, Mountain Mike's, Mattress Firm. There's been lots of small restaurants and small stores open up. And so it is still, it's still a vibrant city. Still difficult, but then from a council standpoint, we're looking at what we can do for short-term strategies and long-term strategies to promote retail opportunities, both bringing businesses in, like REI that's moving into the old Toys R Us building, or long-term strategies of maintaining that a vibrant mix of different size spaces for companies to either come into or grow into, and then to kind of make sure that our retail vacancy is less, and then just promote patronage from our residents, to help them, much like my Eat Sunnyvale project, have people understand where and what variety of things that we have here in the city. And finally, of course, just looking at improving zoning and permitting to make sure that it's easy for businesses to, come into the city and get approved and move forward. So that was our study sessions. From the main meeting standpoint, we had special orders of the day for Public Works Week. So there's several work weeks or different weeks in May. One of which is the Public Works Week, which basically honors all of our public works staff that keep our parks and our roads going, which are very critical. Municipal Clerks Week, which honors our city clerk and the deputy city clerk for their great job, especially during COVID, trying to make sure that how to manage meetings and dealing with the ever-changing requirements from a state standpoint was not an easy task from a technical as well as a just an operational standpoint. And then of course we celebrated Nurses Week. We had one of the nurses from El Camino Health and their vaccination center here on Maud Avenue. So that's a partnership between LinkedIn and El Camino Health in the city to vaccinate people here in Sunnyvale. And so we had one of their nurses come and speak at the meeting. And so this week, I think it was just yesterday, was the end of Nurses Week. So if you know a nurse, definitely thank them for their work. It's very critical, especially you see how important their job is over the last year when they were on the front lines dealing with the pandemic. And then as far as the main meeting, we dealt with the redistricting outreach plan and kind of dealt with the meeting schedule. So as a reminder, applications are due at the end of May. So if you're interested in joining our redistricting efforts, so last year we split up the city, approved splitting up the city into 6 districts from a council standpoint, along with a at-large mayor that represents the entire city. And there were and then now that we'll get the census data, 2020 was the census, we'll be getting that data in the fall, but it's setting up those meetings and setting up that committee that will then help residents and help that committee come up with possible maps to bring back for final approval of changing those map boundaries slightly based upon the new census. When we did the census in 2010, we had about 140,000 people. We now think it's about 155,000. So we'll see where the final census data comes. But the final map decisions will be made almost a year from now, March 15th of 2022. So yeah, if you're interested in applying, go to sunnyvale.ca.gov/redistricting. So that's a really important job, and looking forward to working with that committee. And then the council approved the 2021 Housing and Urban Development Action Plan, HUD. And so HUD, so these are federal funds that we give to help fund local projects, local service agencies on, making sure that from a housing standpoint, some of the housing protection like Project Sentinel and other things. So, it's good to be able to give out those funds wherever you can. Let's see, that was pretty much it for last week. And of course Sunday was Mother's Day, so of course congrats to all the mothers. This week's been really busy. On Monday morning, Sunnyvale public safety officers held a memorial service at Fire Station 5, and it was it was a small service. It was mainly city council members, public safety officers, and some families. Over in the life of our public safety department, we've had 5 public safety officers who have lost their life in the line of duty, and so we were there to honor their memory, mourn their loss. Definitely, there's a video that public safety put online, I think yesterday, on their Facebook feed. If you get a chance to watch that, one of the grandsons of one of the fallen officers spoke, and it was very touching from that standpoint. And it's good to honor their memory. I think tomorrow is Fallen Officers Day from a national standpoint. And and then on Monday, Governor Newsom was in Oakland to announce, some of his proposals for the budget, and the governor's budget will be proposed today. It'll go to the legislatures today. But California has about a $75 billion, that's billion, dollar surplus, despite the pandemic closures. And so, the governor proposed $600 checks for middle income residents, along with $500 payments to families with dependents. So it was trying to give back to some of those that are in need. And how we get to the $75 billion surplus, a lot of that is due, well, a portion of that is due to the ARP funding from the federal government, and that's about $26 billion from direct federal aid. And so the $100 billion package of proposals that the government's laying out is his California comeback plan, as he's terming it. And he's been announcing different things throughout the week on what will be part of that plan. So we'll talk more about the other parts a little bit later. On Monday, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration authorized the use of Pfizer vaccine for adolescents aged 12 to 15. So definitely there were questions. There's been a long time coming on the vaccines have only been trials had only been done on ages 16 and above, and so we had 3 vaccines for those residents 16 and above. But finally, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved Pfizer for those 12 to 15. So, and then the county later this week opened up our vaccination sites for those children also. So, I've heard from parents that are already out there making sure that their children are getting that first shot. As far as Sunnyvale City Council, on Monday and Tuesday evenings, we had meetings go about 5 hours or a little more than 5 hours each every evening, interviewing our board and commission candidates. So we had about 40 different candidates this year or this quarter, and we interview, applications and people applying, applicants every quarter, and it varies from time to time. Usually the midterm application period or the mid-year application period is always the highest, because a lot of the 4-year terms end up expiring mid-year. So we always have a good number of positions available for June. So we interviewed 36 applicants, 37 applicants. We had a lot of good residents who want to be on our boards and commissions, so it's going to be really hard to pare that down. A lot of good backgrounds, a lot of good diverse opinions and views, and it's not going to be easy. And I hope that if anybody who applied doesn't get appointed, I'm hoping that definitely they will stay active in the community. Also, it's like there's constant turnover as people either get too busy, leave Sunnyvale, and have to resign from the commission, or people term out. So there's always kind of turnover on those boards and commissions throughout the year. The midsummer application period is always the highest for whatever reason. And then on Tuesday, Governor Newsom again had another press conference, and here he promoted $12 billion in funding to get more to basically deal with homelessness within the state. So to get unhoused into housing, and functionally end family homelessness within 5 years. So the proposal includes about almost $9 billion to expand the California program that was created during the pandemic to convert hotels and motel rooms into housing. And so roughly half of the $9 billion would go towards creating housing where mental health and other behavioral services are provided on site. So I think that's critical. And so, yeah, Project Home Key, Room Key last year was pretty successful. The average cost to convert a motel room into housing was about $150,000, and it was much cheaper than building housing from scratch, which ends up being on the order of $650,000 a unit for multifamily units. And then there's also part of that proposal was 3.5 billion in new housing and rental support payments for families. So trying to deal with those that are already housed to make sure that they stay in housing, and then trying to build housing from scratch. So all this will ultimately need to get approval from the legislature. So we'll see where that goes. And then on Tuesday, Santa Clara County Valley Water District proposed its rate raises, and they've already been signaling that, and I've seen reports to their executive board and the wider board that they're going to be raising the rates by 9.6% each year for the next 8 years, followed by 8.7% jump in the following 2 years after that. So about over 9% yearly raise in water rates from the Santa Clara Valley, or sorry, Silicon Valley Water, for the next 10 years. And so that would equate to about $4 to $5 a month, according to the water district, $4 to $5 a month increase for its customers starting in July. And the water district basically says that these increases are necessary to purchase more water during the worsening drought, and also to complete maintenance for the upgrades to the aging infrastructure. Most notably, of course, is the Anderson Reservoir, which is about more than $500 million effort to tear down and rebuild that aging dam. This is about $575 million, and of course, the federal government said early last year, early 2020, that dam, which was built in I think the 50s, posed really too great of a risk of collapse during a major earthquake. So it needed to be retrofitted. It needed to be rebuilt however it could. And so that meant that they drew down that water that's in that dam. They started construction, I think, in February of this year. But Sunnyvale is pretty lucky because most of its residents and most of the city gets water from two different sources: the SFPUC, the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, and Silicon Valley Water. And so the city has options and opportunities to play off water rates against each other from those two different sources. So we're not dedicated to a single source, and there's also a small portion of the city in the south that gets their water from Cal Water, which is slightly different. But the majority of our residents and businesses get their water from that mix of SFPUC in Silicon Valley Water. And SFPUC has been pretty good about not raising their rates for several years. And so again, they're proposing no rate increase this year. They will finally, and they've been doing that for the last few years, or very minimal rate increases, until they won't be raising rates until fiscal year 2022 or 2023. So no rate increases through that. They'll finally, after that, they will be increasing somewhere between 1 and 16% every year. So at that point, we have decisions to make on whether or not we get our water from SFPUC or Silicon Valley water. So definitely there are some questions in the future, but in general we're doing fairly well, though we do need to do some rate increases this year. And then on Wednesday, Governor Newsom had a long press conference in Monterey, talking about his $20 billion commitment to education. And so that had a lot of things, and I think education is really important. I think there's been some efforts in the past that have kind of ended up ending long before they needed to. And so part of what the governor was laying out was universal transitional kindergarten for 4-year-olds. So basically preparing them for preparing our youngest for kindergarten, to give them a step up in learning. And so that's about $4 billion in behavioral and mental health for kids. There's also after school and preschool, before school access for all. So that's I think about 1 billion the first year, and it kind of goes up to 5 billion over 5 years. And that was something that had been proposed by, I think, Governor Brown, but he was underfunded initially and didn't go, basically, and it was yet another idea that started out but didn't have enough funding, so it only was rolled out in part of the state, and then ultimately died because when there were funding issues from a state government standpoint. And then there was part of the governor's proposal now is to pay teachers more, invest in their talents, especially in underserved communities throughout the state. So I think it's about over $3 billion for teacher preparedness. And then finally, there was a 529 college savings account. So it's a proposal to do $500 college saving accounts for $3.7 million children from low income families. And so that's fantastic to if they have money to go to community college, go to full-time college, it's starting to save for their future. And I think that's one thing that the state can do, to set aside money to try to make it more possible for kids to actually go to college, which I think is a fantastic thing. And so the governor will propose all the different things that he came up with throughout the week to the state legislature sometime later today. And then the governor did have questions during that meeting about masking, and Governor Newsom talked about that the state will be updating its mask guidelines in the next month, but at least in the short term, for indoor activities, we'll still have some mask guidance and mandates, but they hope, and he hopes that we'll be opening up sooner than later as far as lifting even the indoor mask mandates as well. But of course, on Wednesday, the CDC announced it'll no longer recommend that, this was talked about a little bit Wednesday and Thursday. CDC will announce it'll no longer recommend that fully vaccinated people wear masks indoors and outdoors. And so, this, of course, the announcement comes as, the CDC and the Biden administration, it really faced a lot of pressure from people to ease restrictions on people that are fully vaccinated. And so at least those people that are 2 weeks past their last required COVID-19 vaccine dose, and this was, I think, in a lot of ways to highlight the benefits of getting that shot. So the guidelines still say if your indoor or outdoor activities, indoor and outdoor activities pose minimal risk to fully vaccinated people, and then but they still say that you need to wear a mask well, if you're fully vaccinated, it's like you don't need to wear a mask or physically distance in any setting, is what they're saying. That hasn't been changed from the state standpoint yet, but there were certain, and they did say that if there are state or local requirements from a business or workplace standpoint, that those are still in effect. The CDC guidelines aren't law. It is guidelines that the state then takes under advisement and changes their local guidelines. But they did say that everyone vaccinated or not, so whether or not you're vaccinated or not, needs to continue to wear masks in correctional facilities, homeless shelters, on planes, buses, trains, and other forms of public transportation. So there's still the question of if you're on public transportation, that the CDC is still suggesting that you wear your mask and requiring that you wear your mask. And of course, California, their guidelines are still in effect as far as everyone needs to wear a mask indoors as required. So, except when you're eating and you're actually eating and taking off your mask, but when you're not eating, definitely need to be having a mask indoors. And then, of course, President Biden had a press conference, I think yesterday or the day before, looking for America to smile again, and took off his mask in the Oval Office. So I think that's him signaling that we are starting to get to that next phase of where the majority of the U.S. has been vaccinated, and hopefully we get closer to that herd immunity goal. So let's go to, as we're talking about kind of where we stand, let's talk about our weekly numbers on COVID testing, hospitalization, vaccinations. Nationally, cases and hospitalizations continue to fall, around the world, and especially India. And my heart goes out to those people in India, and people here that have families and friends who are living in India. They've been really hit over the last few weeks with a very bad variant, and a lot of people being infected and dying because of COVID. Cases are surging, around the world, in different locales, but things are looking fairly a lot better here in the U.S. New COVID cases, from a national standpoint, continue to fall. We now have had about 32.6 million cases. That's another 300,000 in the last week, but it's tapered off over 500,000, 400,000 over the last few weeks. Nationally, we've surpassed 266 million doses administered, and are over about 580,000 deaths now, about 4,000 in the last week. From a California standpoint, we've now had almost 3.7 million positive cases, and we're still about just over 1,000 new cases a day now. So we have the lowest new case rate in the nation, which is fantastic. And we still have had over 61,000 fatalities. So we just went over the 61,000 mark. But on a positive note, we've had 33 million vaccines administered, and about another 2 million in the last week. So we are seeing the vaccination rates starting to drop off. Although now that we have 12 to 15-year-olds also being allowed to get vaccinated, we might see at least a general kind of continuing of our numbers. From a state standpoint, we're still number 11 on states with residents with at least one dose, around 52% now, and we did improve as far as for states that with residents fully vaccinated. We're now at number 26. We were at number 29, so we're about 36% of our residents have been fully vaccinated. So all that's looking really good from a state standpoint. And then, from a county standpoint, our cases continue to trend downward. We've had over 119,000 cases, about 400, only additional 400 in the last week. We've had about we've had 2,096 deaths, and that's about 12 in the last week, and we have about 62 people currently hospitalized. So all that in that number continues to go down. 888,000 people 16 years and older have been fully vaccinated. That's 55% of our county, and over 1.1, almost 1.2 million people have at least one dose in the county. They're for at least one dose of the vaccine. So that's 74% of the county have at least had their first dose. So we're doing fairly well from a county standpoint. And so it's good to see people getting vaccinated, and those case counts, those case rates continue to drop. It will definitely help us move into the yellow tier, hopefully sometime in the next few weeks. LA County, San Francisco County moved last week into the yellow tier. San Mateo County moved on Tuesday into the yellow tier, and hopefully we're looking at moving into the yellow tier sometime in the next few weeks, if not the big June opening as the governor keeps talking about. So we'll see where things go as far as that's concerned. I continue to do a lot of advocacy on our city's behalf and on your behalf. At the county level, I continue discussions with our county health and county supervisors for testing and vaccinations. The county mobile health pop-up van was here at Murphy Park, and they're here the second and fourth Mondays of the week or the month, from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. for those people who want to get tested. So they'll be back here on May 24th. They were here, earlier in the week, and then let's see, and then as far as vaccinations are concerned, they will actually be at Columbia Neighborhood Center this afternoon from 1 to 4 p.m. And the county has been really pushing its drop-in vaccination clinics, so no appointment required. So if you know someone that needs to get vaccinated, the Columbia Neighborhood Center from 1 to 4 p.m. today, Friday, Friday the 14th, is your chance to get vaccinated. And so and the county has drop-in sites on a daily basis, providers throughout the county where people can either drop in. You can also still set up appointments to get vaccinated. And when you arrive, basically you just need to alert staff that you don't have an appointment, and they will immediately schedule you, get your information. 2 weeks ago, I also visited our El Camino Health vaccination site on Maud Avenue, right near Mary, and that's at a LinkedIn building. So it's a partnership between LinkedIn and El Camino. They can give up to 3,000 doses a day, and they've also been doing drop-in vaccinations. So walk-in appointments are allowed there. So to register for vaccinations, to find out walk-up locations, just go to sccfreevax.org, and you can find out all the different locations around the county, around our city, that you can conceivably get vaccinated at. Oh, let's go ahead and talk about some upcoming events. So Saturday, tomorrow, is Hands on the Arts, and it will be virtual again this year. And this is, I'm a big proponent and advocate for more arts, especially getting children exposed to art at an early age. And tickets are on sale for this year's event. And yes, it's virtual, but the $20 supply kit, and it's basically one kit per child, gets you all the prepackaged requirements as far as doing 6 video projects. And this year again, I did one of the virtual projects, which was a balloon cage. So you can see the balloon cage up here on the wall. And that video, I think, goes live later today or tomorrow. So if you want to take part in that, and if you get the ticket, and then their bag sale from 2 p.m. So, the federal government postponed our tax day for about a month. So just as a reminder, Monday is tax day, and then next Thursday, yeah, May. This is our one of our three big meetings of the year. It's one of our all-day meetings. So this is the budget is online. It's about 1,100 pages, and I'm slowly working my way through it. But it gives a good overview of where the city stands. Revenue is down. Um, and we've talked about that. It's reduced sales tax and transient occupancy tax are one of the biggest things. And the city is very unique because we look at a 20-year budget plan, and by charter we have to have a 10-year balanced budget, which isn't always easy, but it makes sure that you're looking very conservatively at your estimates going forward. One of the things that people always ask about are utility rates, and utility rates are proposed to go a little bit higher, and these are pass-through costs for operation and maintenance of those programs. Water will increase about 1.5%, as opposed to the 9.6% that Silicon Valley Water is proposing for their program. Last year we kept water rates completely stable, so we did 0%, but definitely we need to increase water slightly to deal with some of the ongoing efforts that we're doing. Wastewater rates will increase by 4%, and solid waste will increase by 4% also. And all those proposed rate notices were mailed out per month from city estimates. And just to kind of compare that, San Jose announced its increases this week. They've approved an 8% water. I think they'll have about a 9.1% increase in water rates. And then as far as garbage rates, the San Jose is actually looking at increasing the rates 17% for single family homes and 7% for multifamily units. So definitely it's interesting to see how other cities are dealing with some of the issues. Hello, I'm back. Definitely there were internet issues, so sorry for those that all of a sudden the feed cut out on my side. But on Tuesday, let me just give you, I was in the middle of telling what the upcoming events are. On Tuesday, May 25th, council will then has several things coming in front of it. One of which is recommending the land use options for the Moffett Park specific plan, the EIR, and the environmental impact report analysis. And so from that standpoint, as a council, we need to set the maximums to study how much office space, how much residential, and how much retail will be added at Moffett Park. And so that's then studied, and then figuring out what the maximums are, and then dealing with the appropriate mitigations and what could be supported out there. And then we'll also accept the findings post-construction in the post-reconstruction report to retain existing configuration of Maud Avenue, where we remove parking spots and put in class 2 bike lanes between Borregas and Fair Oaks. So definitely it's been that's coming up. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. what's happening with Macy's. Definitely the fences have gone up. They're doing the final internal demolition before actual demolition of Macy's. So you can start, that should be happening over the next month, but you're starting to see trucks show up to take away what can be recovered interior from that standpoint. And then you'll see the actual demolition happening. Kimberly asked, I'm curious why Sarah Park's splash pad is working, but 7Cs and others aren't. What's the thinking and rationale behind this decision? And so a lot of kids congregating at one park to cool off doesn't really make sense during a pandemic. And so, yeah, I talked to the city manager. The splash zones actually aren't supposed to be open under the yellow tier. So, the Sarah Park splash zone should be closing, but all the splash zones throughout the city should be opening up sometime in the next month. Jason asks, are you going to restart your in-person office hours? And right now, I have started having one-on-one meetings at the coffee shop. So if you are interested, definitely reach out. I'm not doing the 2-hour every 15-minute item right now, but it's good to start seeing people face to face. Andrea asked what happened to the Fair Oaks pedestrian bridge. It recently closed down. I have followed up with city staff. I didn't think it was supposed to close until the Fair Oaks Bridge. So Fair Oaks Bridge is over the Caltrain, over Caltrain, that bridge. They're adding a pedestrian bridge along that bridge, as well as more protected bike lanes. I didn't think that the Fair Oaks Bridge pedestrian bridge next to Osh was supposed to close down until that was open, but I'll find out with staff where things go as far as that's concerned. Let's go ahead. Actually, Donna asks, will there be music on Murphy Avenue this summer? And so I'm happy to report that starting next Wednesday, May 20th, there will be music on Murphy Avenue on Wednesday and Thursday nights from May 20th through July 29th. And then it's mainly background music. It's there's supposed to be no dancing, and social distancing practices will still be enforced, but the normal, I'll say, Wednesday night music and Saturday night jazz will be starting in August. So something to look forward to for everyone that wants to, missed music, our Wednesday night and Saturday night music last year. Let's go ahead and wrap up. I know, let's see how this will come out and how I'll be able to broadcast this wrap up. But thank you for joining me again this week. I continue to be proud of Sunnyvale's response to the pandemic. Life continues to be difficult, including internet issues and whatever that might be. For all of us, new issues come up almost every day, but your actions make a difference. Wear your mask, get your vaccine, continue to assist others and build community where you can. I'm proud of Sunnyvale residents pulling together to help others in need and sharing what they have. If you're out on a walk, wave, say hello. People miss that real social interaction. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We will get through this together. Thanks for listening. And to everyone, have a great week. Wear your mask, get vaccinated, and enjoy your weekend. Take care. Goodbye.